What's good, y'all? Dr. Trehunna. So did you know the more calories somebody consumes, the faster they die? And who eats the most amount of calories in America? There are minorities and African Americans, okay? So today what we're gonna cover is how you can expand your lifespan and how you can live as long as possible disease-free, which is your health span, okay? Now, two things happen when you eat. IGF-1 is spiked, okay, which is induced by insulin, and mTOR is spiked. And these two are growth factors, which means what? It helps your body grow, okay? So, with that being said, is there anything wrong with your body or your cells growing? Not at all. But more things can go wrong when it's growing versus when your body's in a repair state. So when you are in a fed state, right, once you finish eating, your body's utilizing the nutrients to basically make itself bigger and stronger. Now, more things can go wrong when it's in that state, in a fed state, versus when it's in a repair state, okay? And so just so you have an idea, think about a car, right? When you get a brand new car, nothing is wrong with it, right? You're driving the vehicle, you put in gas in the car, you get its oil change. But in the midst of you getting your oil change or putting gas in your car, something is gonna go wrong to the point where one of the lights on the dashboard will turn on sooner than later, okay? And that's what happens when you're eating more calories because you're giving your body more chances of something to go wrong because it's in a growth state. Something is bound to happen sooner or later, okay? So what you want to do is keep insulin low. That way you have more, less chances or everything is delayed for something to go wrong. Now, when you're consuming food, your body's looking for two things. It is looking for essential amino acids, and it's also looking for essential fatty acids, okay? Or omega-3s. So that means protein and fat. Notice how I didn't say what? Carbohydrates, okay? Ironically, carbohydrates or sugar, because carbs and sugar is the exact same thing. Once it's broken down, it's gonna be, glucose in the bloodstream. What happens is because sugar is so toxic for the human body, you have something called insulin to help shuttle the sugar into the cells so your cells can use it, okay? But here's the thing. If you continue to spike your insulin, right, what's gonna happen is your cells are gonna start to become resistant to insulin. And when your cells become resistant to insulin, guess what's gonna happen? More sugar is in your bloodstream and your body's unable to utilize the sugar. And what sugar is gonna do is gonna corrode your body, literally, from the inside out, okay? That's why a lot of people don't know that high blood pressure, that's not from salt. That is from how much sugar is in your bloodstream, okay? So what everybody needs to do is, in some form or fashion, do caloric restriction. But that doesn't mean go on a diet, right? That just means making sure you're paying attention to what you are eating, okay? So if carbs spikes your insulin the highest and protein spikes your insulin too, but not as much as carbs, then that means you need to have more protein on your plate and fat on your plate, okay? Because fat doesn't spike your insulin basically at all, okay? But what do a lot of people usually do? A lot of people's diets consist of processed foods, and all the processed foods that you're exposed to has a lot of carbs and fat. Ironically, in nature, there is no food that you can think of that is natural that has carbs and fats in it. Only processed foods or somebody had to create in the lab has carbs and fat in it, okay? So you want to focus on having proteins and fat that usually comes from animal sources. Now, why did we learn that animal meat or stuff like that is bad for you? Because one of our presidents, I think his name was Gerald Ford, and this is back in the 50s or 60s, right? He died of a heart attack. And because he is a president, he's somebody of high prestige, they try to figure out exactly why did he die and what caused it. Long story short, they noticed that there was a lot of plaque in his arteries. So they came to the conclusion, hey, dietary fat must be the cause to clog your arteries, okay? Here's the funny thing. Ironically, cholesterol doesn't raise your cholesterol in your body, and I'm talking about dietary cholesterol, and fat doesn't raise cholesterol or the fat in your body, which is your fasting triglycerides or the fat that's just floating around in your bloodstream, okay? Ironically, what happens is when you give your body too much sugar, your liver is gonna process this and it's gonna create more fat. Because what's going to happen is if your cells become resistant, right, and your fat cells become resistant, that means your body's saying, hey, there's all the fat cells are full, all your muscle cells are full. We are unable to take in this new glucose that you're putting into the system. So your liver is going to create more fat cells through a process called de novo lipogenesis, okay? And because it's creating more fat cells, right, now it has basically more storage units to put this glucose in. But because you're getting more glucose, right, you're getting bigger and bigger. That is the cause of obesity. It starts all with insulin resistance, and you continue to spike your insulin day in and day out. That's why I tell all my clients to do some form of intermittent fasting. Why? The average American eats what? 14 to 16 hours out the day, which means what? Every single American is basically eating from sun up to sundown. The only time they're not eating is when they sleep. All right. So if your body's in a growth state, 16 hours out the day, your body is never repairing itself. That's why all diseases start with some sort of inflammation, and all diseases start with how you eat. All diseases start in your gut, okay? So what you need to do is control it in some form of fashion, either through caloric restriction, you're basically starving yourself, or what I tell my clients to do, intermittent fasting, okay? When you're intermittent fasting, you do something called autophagy, which basically your body has a chance to repair itself, okay? And you're able to utilize a little bit more lipids, which is what? Your fat, okay? And also, it's basically the survival of the fittest in your body. What happens is when you put your body under some sort of stress, such as a sauna, such as cold exposure, or fasting, right? Even though it might be controlled fasting, such as intermittent fasting, your body's saying, hey, there's not a constant influx of nutrients in the system. So we need to still survive. So we need to become stronger. And all the cells that's not doing its job is gonna take it away. It's gonna recycle them and create new cells through stem cells, okay? But this process can only happen, autophagy, when you're in a fasted state, which means what? There's not a lot of nutrients in the system because you're not putting a lot of nutrients in your mouth. Make sense? So the more somebody eats, the more chances you're going to become obese. The more chances you're going to become obese is because your body's becoming more insulin resistant. And that's why majority of people who die from a heart attack or stroke, or even at the fact cancer, they are obese or they had weight problems because their body become insulin resistant, and basically their body wasn't able to control or handle all the glucose or the blood sugar levels that's in your system, okay? So one thing that I want all my clients to do, or people that's paying attention to my page, right? When you are basically in a fasted state, your body is gonna start healing itself from the inside out. It's gonna heal your gut, okay? All inflammation, systemic inflammation starts in your gut, okay? You want to make sure that your gut is not inflamed, okay? Other benefits, and also reset your immune system, okay? So the less you eat, believe it or not, the healthier you will be. And that's the time when your body's able to fight off pathogens, bacteria, and infections. Just like if anybody was raised with dogs or cats, right? If your dog was sick, if your cat was sick, what they did not do, you could put all the food and their favorite treats in that bowl, they don't eat. Why? Your body's able to fight better when you don't put nothing in your mouth. That's why when you're coming down with a flu, right, or a cold, what did you not really want to do? You didn't feel like eating. That's your body's natural way of saying, hey, we're not going to make you as mobile. We need to utilize this energy to fight off this bacteria or this infection, okay? So if you are in a fasted state, your body's able to heal itself faster, and it's able to emote the immune system better, all right? So once again, if you want to live as long as possible, okay, fast a little bit more, follow some form of a window, and lower or just control your carbohydrate intake, okay? The less carbs you have, the less things that can go wrong, all right? And once again, animal meat is not gonna kill you, okay? It is about you mixing the carbs with fat, such as 9 times out of 10. If you want a burger, you're gonna want some fries. And 9 times you have a burger and fries, you're gonna want that milkshake or the soda, That is carb-based, the fries are carb-based, and the burger is protein and fat-based. So you mix in a whole lot of carbs with fat. Make sense? Hopefully y'all learned something today. Make sure y'all do some sort of form of fasting, ladies. And that's going to be your reset tip of the day. That's going to help you stay snatched all the time, not only in the summertime.